At the end of episode 1, they saw over 300 Trollocs running down the mountains to the two rivers. The Trollocs were looking for the Dragon Reborn, so by fleeing the town, the Fellowship was able to lure the Trollocs away from the two rivers. They rode north and crossed the river Tarandrel on the Taran ferry. That bought them some time. The group camped out for a night at a cave and then they rode on. Their goal was to cross a second river, the Aranel, and then ride east to Tar Valon. Unfortunately, while they were sleeping, a fade found them. Moiraine had told Lan that Shadar Logoth was too dangerous, but when the Trollocs showed up, Lan could not even wake up Moiraine, since her wound was taking such a big toll on her health. So Lan made the decision himself. He led the group to Shadar Logoth, a very, very evil place. So evil that even the Trollocs were afraid to enter it. The Wheel of Time Episode 2 had a very clear purpose. The episode began with the Fellowship riding away from the two rivers together, and the episode ended with the Fellowship being split up into 3 separate groups. That's a high-level recap. Now, let's take a step back and look more closely at a number of very important takeaways from this episode. First off, the White Cloaks. The Wheel of Time Episode 1 introduced the Red Ajah, a sect of the Aes Sedai that finds men who can channel and removes their power. The Wheel of Time Episode 2 introduced the White Cloaks, otherwise known as the Children of Light. The show is yet to introduce the leader, Pedro Nile, who is the Lord Captain Commander. Episode 2 introduced 2 powerful White Cloaks. Joffrey Bornhold is a Lord Captain, one step below the Lord Captain Commander, and Eamon Valda is a Questioner, otherwise known as the Hand of the Light. Coincidentally, in the show adaptation, it appears that Aes Sedai may need their hands to perform the weaves, and thus Eamon Valda cut off the hands of this woman here, a yellow Aes Sedai. This was the 7th sister whom he killed. Keep in mind, he is different from other White Cloaks. Joffrey Bornhold actually told Moiraine to find an Aes Sedai at Whitebridge, since an Aes Sedai may be able to heal her Trolloc wound, whereas Eamon Valda would prefer to kill all Aes Sedai. Now let's discuss the 3 oaths. In the very first scene of the show, Moiraine wrapped up a little figurine. That is an Angreal, one of 3 types of magical devices. The Aes Sedai have a Tar Angreal called the Oath Rod, upon which they swear 3 oaths. To speak no word that is not true. To make no weapon with which one person can kill another. Never to use the one power as a weapon, except in the last extreme defense of her life or the life of her warder or another Aes Sedai. The wording of those oaths matters. Aes Sedai did not swear to never lie. They swore to speak no word that is not true, so in effect, they can lie through misdirection. As an example, Moiraine told Lord Captain Joffrey Bornhold that she had a sister in Whitebridge. He thought that she meant family, but what she was actually saying was that there are Aes Sedai there. Now let's look at the 3rd oath. Never to use the one power as a weapon except in the last extreme of defense of her life or the life of her warder or another Aes Sedai. Moiraine did not directly kill the ferryman. She made a whirlpool to destroy the ferry, and Master Hightower swam into it upon his own volition. Okay, now let's discuss the one power and Ba'alzamon. When they stopped at the cave, Moiraine walked over to Egwene and used the one power so as to wake Egwene up peacefully. Nevertheless, Rand saw this happen, so he went outside and presumably he listened to Moiraine begin to teach Egwene to use the one power. Rand fears the Aes Sedai and the one power, so when Egwene laid down next to him, he pushed her away. She then went to Perrin and they sought comfort in each other, having lost Nynaeve, Layla, and others, and it's worth noting that wolves could be heard howling. That night, all 4 kids had a similar nightmare that involved bats and a man whose eyes were fire. Ba'alzamon. That was very frightening for the kids, so they were confused. Moiraine told them that dreams matter, because they do. Dreams are not just dreams. The Dark One can contact you in a dream. People can contact you in a dream. And there are dreams within which, if someone is hurt or killed, they will be hurt or killed in the waking world. That is why bats that died in the dreams lay there dead in the real world. It's very freaky. This is a good time to highlight the differences between the 4 kids. Rand yelled at Moiraine again, so clearly Rand is fearful of Aes Sedai and the one power. On the other hand, Egwene admires Moiraine, so Egwene was the first to ride off and follow her. Mat and Perrin's opinions lie somewhere in the middle of Rand and Egwene. Mat doesn't fully trust the Aes Sedai, but he realizes that she is better than the Trollocs, at least for the time being. Perrin's feelings are the most difficult to interpret since Perrin is an introvert. Moreover, more often than not, Perrin is consumed by guilt for having killed his wife, Layla. It's also worth noting that Lan secretly stayed behind and overheard everything that the boys said about Moiraine, so Lan has his guard up to protect her, specifically from Rand. During their second ride, Mat began singing a song, Weep for Manetheren. Egwene added in some harmony and Perrin layered in a little bass. That was cool. Then Moiraine told them about the fall of Manetheren and how people of the two rivers are their descendants. The old blood runs strong in the two rivers. More to come on this in the future. When they stopped to make camp, Egwene approached Rand and asked for just one thing, for him to not hate her, and he responded that he could never hate her. Pretty cute. Also, a wolf came over and licked Perrin's leg wound. So the group made camp a second time, but this time a Fade found them. Lan gave Moiraine to Perrin and then led the group to Shadar Logoth. When they got there, the Trollocs stopped, because it is a place so evil that even Trollocs won't go into it unless Fades force them to do so. When they got there, Rand walked to the top of a tower and Egwene joined him. They held hands as they looked out upon the city. That was nice. Meanwhile, Mat gave Perrin his dagger from Layla. This was a great show-only scene. It highlighted the bond between Mat and Perrin. It highlighted Mat's kind heart, and it also paved the way for Mat to be woken up and lured to an evil dagger. Remember, Lan had told them to not touch anything, and Mat now has a dagger from Shadar Logoth. That is bad news. To make matters worse, when they entered Shadar Logoth, it was daytime, so it was safe. But then night fell, and the evil mist called Mashadar came out. The mist split the group up into 3 groups. Egwene and Perrin jumped off of the wall into the river and crossed to the north side of the river Arenal. Rand and Mat escaped through this little hole here and floated down the river on a dead tree. And last, Lan rode off with Moiraine. So Perrin and Egwene swam to the north side of the river Arenal. Rand and Mat floated east and southeast down the river Arenal, and Lan and Moiraine are still south of the river, which is where the Trollocs are, but not just the Trollocs. Nynaeve was also there. In episode 1, Nynaeve was dragged away by a Trolloc, but somehow she survived. And since she is a very good tracker, Nynaeve both found Lan and snuck up on him without him hearing. That was very, very impressive, and also a callback to the first time that Moiraine met Lan, when she tried to sneak up on him, but he heard her and threw her into a pond.
If you don't take me to them right now, I'll slit your throat.